Inside the Squad Season 4, let's go! We're taking Season 4 on the road.
Hey guys, it's Sergeant Verma, and I'll be taking you guys to Inside the Squad Season 4 on the road. Today we're starting at Recovery Cafe, and here's our outreach team.
Hi, I'm Adam Murphy with the outreach team.
And I'm Amanda Ferguson with the outreach team.
And I'm MK Reilly, Community Engagement Manager. Let's go, guys.
Do it.
We're doing it. We're back. Season 4. Welcome, Shawn. You excited to be here?
I am. Let's do this. So, welcome to Season 4 of Inside the Squad. We're going to be changing things up, and we're going to be on the road and showing everyone, all of our viewers, some different parts of our community. Yep. And today we're here at Recovery Cafe, and we're going to do a little introduction of our community outreach team.
I'm Adam Murphy. I have worked for the city since 2008. I've previously come from a nonprofit background since 1999. In 2008, I joined the city as the Weed and Seed Site Coordinator and transitioned to homeless and community outreach. And then when the possibility came about where I could join LPD to work on officer follow-up and to help citizens in the community with law enforcement contact, I put my name in for that because it sounded right up my alley to help people that I perhaps hadn't met before in the other roles that I've had with the city. And so that's where we're at today.
And I'm Amanda Ferguson, and my title with LPD is Homeless and Community Outreach Liaison. I come from a public health background. I worked for the Tippecanoe County Health Department for almost 9 years before coming to LPD. I made the switch just because I wanted more client interaction. I didn't get as much of that at the health department, and that's the part of my job that I love the most. So I took that, and now I get to do that all day long with LPD.
Thank you, guys. And I'm MK Reilly, the Community Engagement Manager, back for Season 4 with Sergeant Verma. Super excited to be here.
That's right. So our community outreach team has grown quite a bit, right? So we have Adam and Amanda now, and there's just more to the Lafayette Police Department than just police, right? So there's a lot that goes on in our department, and this is just a little small bit of what we do. Mm-hmm. And today's episode is going to be all about outreach, and we're going to get into some fun stories. Yeah. But before we do that, I think MK's got a quick shout out.
Yeah, so outreach is the core of what we do because, we're the outreach team. So I wanted to thank one of our sponsors real quick. During the year, we put on so many community engagement events, and it's all through the Greater Lafayette Police Foundation. So I want to give a quick shout out to one of our sponsors. Amanda, give us the gong.
Could you put more muscle into that next time?
Nice. All the gym workouts.
Hey, Greater Lafayette. This is Chad Crockover. I'm the CEO of Big Brothers Big Sisters of Greater Lafayette. Just here to talk a little bit about what we do. We match kids with volunteers in the area. These volunteers are kind of role models and mentors for these kids in the community. Right now, we have 46 kids waiting to be matched. We have 14 volunteers, or bigs as we call them, waiting to be matched with them. And the average little, or these kids wait up to 5 months to be matched. So we need your help. We need people to volunteer. It's really only an hour a week to change a kid's life. That's an hour. I mean, it's like lunch break. We know that mental health is also a huge area of concern in our community, and we know that our littles have a stronger sense of belonging because of being matched. We know that our littles feel like they're doing better because they've been matched. We know that our littles feel better about themselves due to their relationship with their big. And also, our littles feel more confident they're going to be able to achieve their goals. And so, again, we're saying that we're asking for the community, for Greater Lafayette, Tippecanoe County, reach out to us at Big Brothers Big Sisters of Greater Lafayette to be a volunteer, to be a mentor, to truly change someone's life. Thanks for your time.
So again, thank you, Big Brothers, Big Sisters. We really appreciate you. If any of our listeners or viewers are interested in sponsoring the Greater Lafayette Police Foundation, please reach out to us at insidethesquad@lafayette.in.gov.
So Big Brothers and Big Sisters was, they also sponsored us for Kona and Cops,
Kona and
right?
Cops,
so
yeah.
if you guys came out and got some Kona, they were our sponsors. So great, big thank you to them. Well,
Huge thank
my ear is not ringing anymore from Amanda's gong.
Mine is a little bit.
So I'm Sergeant Verma, and I am the Public Information Officer for the Lafayette Police Department. So kind of my day goes by with working with Adam and Amanda, MK, and then I deal with a lot of the community relations, media, news releases. If you see press releases come out, that's usually coming from me. And I like to be available for our media outlets to be as transparent as possible and keep our community informed with what's going on in our city.
Yeah, we really are working on communications, transparency, getting the word out there. And we'll go over that later. But right now, let's start with you two. Since you're so new, just give us a brief overview of what you guys do.
Yeah, really everything that we do starts with police contact. And so there are reports that we review, there's emails that we get, there's sometimes we're actually there with officers, and we hear about folks that just need help beyond the criminal justice apparatus. So, a recent call we got was a veteran that was 74 years old, had just exited a hotel because he didn't have another night of he didn't have funds for another night at the hotel. And an officer was driving through just doing a basic patrol and noticed in the extreme heat, this was a gentleman that didn't seem to have anywhere to go. And he asked for Amanda and I to get involved and see if we couldn't be helpful. And through our interview, we discovered just a bit more about his situation. We were able to connect him to a shelter here in town that could take him kind of I wouldn't say it was a back door, but it was kind of a speedy referral to kind of outside the normal channel. And we were able to get him connected and housed. He has family that can help, but he was in a particular situation that just a little bit of intervention made a huge difference on a very, very hot day. So that's the kind of thing that we're always at the ready for. But everything we do really starts with an officer saying, this individual that I'm encountering needs help beyond the typical criminal justice process.
And like Adam said, it wasn't so much as the back door to the shelter, but we build those relationships with our community partners. So the relationship that we had with the shelter allowed us to be able to contact someone and say, hey, we have somebody in this emergency situation. Can you please help them? We had just helped them a couple hours previous with something that they needed help with. So it's just kind of
calling in the favor.
Yeah, just trading favors back and forth with our community partners. I think that's what we both have a background in, is community relationships. So we had already built those partnerships before we came to LPD, and we're just introducing them to what we do at LPD. And so it's helped us a lot because, like Recovery Cafe, it was one phone call. You're able to help somebody. So that's what our job, building those community partnerships and being able to lean on them and know who you can turn to when you have somebody that is in need.
So speaking on community relations, I feel like you guys know everyone in town. Like everywhere we go, I lose you because you're off somewhere saying hi to someone. Can you talk more about the community relations and some of the closer contacts you have? What organizations around town do you guys work closely with?
There's so many resources in our community, and truly the issue is not do we have enough, it's do the members of the community know enough about the resources we have to navigate the system, which is where Amanda and I fit in. And so those relationships that we have are, it takes a while to build those up, but part of what we do in our interaction is just understanding how those processes work. What's the best way to get in here? What's the best way to do that? So we're here at the Recovery Cafe, a great example. Everyone here is serious about recovery. And there's about 40 to 50 people here every day that they're open. There's a free meal. There's peers that can interact with folks in their journey of recovery. And it's one of those places in town where if you need to build community or you need to find people that are on the same journey you're on, this is the place to go to. And so many times what Amanda and I will do is we'll invite people that we meet maybe on a trail or in the woods or just downtown that are disconnected from resources. We'll say, hey, can we just go eat lunch together? And we'll come to the cafe and do that. And we spend that time building relationships with them, having conversations about what they need, but more so just building that trust. And then as we do that, we know that they're here amongst other people that care about them and that are welcoming to them. And we're hopeful that we're going to have that interaction. We'll build trust, but maybe they want to stick around for the cafe. And there's other places that are good for that too. So the Recovery Cafe is good for that. NAMI is good for that. There are plenty of places that we can leverage that. But even here the other day, Amanda was playing air hockey with someone.
So we have a client that unfortunately his family home had burnt down, and the mayor had gotten some complaints on them camping in the yard. So we have just been working with him to try to figure out what his next steps look like. And so he is very shy to be around people. So we just invited him to Recovery Cafe, and we came, and after he ate a really good meal, him and I played a game of air hockey, and I won 10-9. And Adam played darts with somebody that we know and that we're working with to get housed, and he lost. So, so that was our sports of the week, was air hockey and dart throwing. But just showing them that there's people here that care about them and that they can get a free meal, because sometimes they haven't eaten they've eaten like chips or a snack or something like that, but sometimes this is their only really good meal that day. So just getting them in here and showing them that people care. We're connected to NAMI in the living room, so that's another place that we can take people. We have went to roll calls and explained to the officers about the living room and the Haven, where we can take people that are in mental health crisis. And it was so interesting. We didn't even think about this. Dispatch came down yesterday and started asking us about the Haven and the living room because they didn't know about them. Yeah. So that was just one thing that we were like, oh, so when we do roll calls and we give information out, we need to start going to dispatch and letting them know as well, and hitting every shift on dispatch so that everybody that is dealing with a crisis at that time knows where they can go. So I think for us, that was just a learning experience. We're going to try to start doing more training with not just the officers, with dispatch as well, so that everybody has that information and the call can go a lot smoother.
So I think like you guys are not just like a resource for the community, but like what Adam said, it all starts with a police officer. So one of the great things about LPD, which I think is going really well, is you guys have become a resource for our police officers, allowing our officers to focus on high crime and other important calls that are going on, because now we have a resource like you guys. And you kind of hit on, like, you don't just deal with homeless, right? You're dealing with someone that's having a mental breakdown, mentally ill, maybe some suicidal calls that we deal with. And I think that helps our patrol officers so much, having that resource to pick up the phone and call Adam or Amanda and be like, hey, I have this situation. What can you do? We didn't have that before. So having that resource now for our officers is phenomenal. I think the city's doing a really good job. Not many communities have that resource, and I think we're pretty blessed to have that. So kind of hit on like what other things besides homeless do you guys would deal with?
Well, we read police reports to try to discover different situations that we could influence. And early on, as we were trying to find our way where we fit in, an officer wrote up a report about someone that had called in wanting to harm themselves. And we were looking for, well, what was the core issue? What was the situation? And it was mentioned that they were worried about an eviction. And as soon as Amanda and I saw that, it's like, oh, we know what to do about that. Mm-hmm. So we had a reason to call back, and we didn't want to pester anyone. We didn't want to embarrass them, but we wanted to help. And we understand that an eviction is possible. Is there some way we could help? And the person that we responded to, they were just kind of at their wits' end. They had tried several things, but it was clear in that interview they were some of the best resources in town they were missing. And so we made that list for them. We said, contact this person, this person, this person. Then I contacted those three to know that person was going to call and follow up with that resource. So it's that warm handoff. And then I think we conferred a little bit, and we had some other suggestions for them on things to do with the family and just some other issues that were going on. They left our encounter with at least 5 more solid resources that they weren't connected to previously. And it was all started with an officer, not just responding to the safety issue, which was the first thing, is that person's safe, which is very appropriate. But then it's the next step. Well, what could we address now that they're safe that might reduce the chance that they feel unsafe again? And that was a great way where an officer, just by how they wrote the report, got us involved.
Nice.
Yeah, we've had that too with kiddos. Like a kiddo was acting up, and because they weren't medicated, because grandparents had taken custody and couldn't figure out insurance yet. So we were able to help grandparents figure out insurance and figure out what they could do to help that kiddo. So it's just things like that we just look for in reports. Right now we're pretty busy, so we haven't had much to look at in reports wise, because the officers are now emailing us, and we carry a radio, so they will call for 800 or 801 to make scenes. So we're doing a lot more proactive and right on the scene stuff now. So it's been great, because I think we have evolved even in the last 2 weeks.
Oh yeah, a lot of you guys getting busier and busier by the day. So because you guys wear so many different hats, just like a police officer wears so many different hats. And it's nice having you guys part of this team now, because you're taking one of the hats from the police officer, and it's making their life just a little bit easier. So we'll kind of roll into a quick story, a success story that Amanda has, that also started with a police officer. Now, in the past, before we had Adam and Amanda in the outreach team, this particular call would have ended with the officer having to tell this family, like, hey, I'm sorry, you can't be on this property because you don't have the legal rights to this property. You're going to have to find some other facility to go to, right? We didn't have the resource to pick up the phone and help them find that facility. We would just leave it on them to do it, but our job was to get them off of somebody's property. So this particular case, to kind of just roll into this story, and we'll pass it off to Amanda, but this started with a police officer that got called to a suspicious person call. That's correct, right? And officers responded and quickly realized that, this is something that Adam and Amanda might be able to help with. And then they picked up the phone and got the process started. So Amanda, if you took lead on this.
Yes. So it was actually a holiday. So there wasn't as many people in the office, and some of our community partners were closed for the day, but they were still working. So the officer had called to see if there were resources to get the family into a hotel. It was actually, the suspicious person was actually a man and a toddler. It was like 8:30 in the morning, and I think it was already 85 degrees outside. So it was one of our really, really hot days. So we wanted to get them out of the heat first. So our first goal was to get them safely inside. We were able.
Why were they called in as a suspicious person? Where were they?
They were sleeping on a porch of not an abandoned house, but a house that did not have anyone living in it. It was for rent. So they were just sleeping on the porch. Come to find out, mom had been there overnight with them, but she had went to work that morning. So she had left super early to go to work, even after a traumatic night of sleeping on a porch. So we got them actually here. The officer brought them here with all of their stuff. They had, been in a verbal altercation with the people that they lived with, and unfortunately they weren't on the lease. So when that happens, the person that's not on the lease in the state of Indiana exits the home, no matter what age they are. So they were on the porch. We got them, the officer brought them to Recovery Cafe. Lindsay with Recovery Cafe was able to go get them breakfast and meet us here. I was able to get them some liquids, some Gatorade, some juice. We got some toys for a little girl. The health department helped us, car seats and toys. And so luckily the health department was closed on the other side. They run Gateway to Hope and Outreach Advocacy Center on the other side of Recovery Cafe. They helped with that situation. Lindsay helped with that situation. We were able to keep them here until we were able to put them into a hotel. There were several community partners that helped after that. One was able to keep them in a hotel for one night, and then we leaned on our local trustee. Monica Casanova was able to pay for a couple nights because it had happened in that township. And then Paul's Plan Ministries was able to keep them until we could get them into a safe house, which we moved them in yesterday. Yeah. So Adam and I moved them in like 3:30 yesterday when Mom got off work. So we're working with them to get them into their own place, but that takes a couple weeks of paychecks. So we're really hopeful for them, and they're getting connected to services and doing everything that we are asking of them. We don't just go and do everything for people, right? We have steps that you have to take to get those resources. So it was great. I mean, she needed work boots the other day. I called around and we got her work boots. So those are just different things that I think sometimes a person out in the community wouldn't understand, like how many different agencies it takes to just get one family into housing or into like a safe spot. So it really does take a whole community.
And in the end, she keeps her job. The family stays together. They have a real plan and a future going forward. And, you know, that it might have ended up differently. Typically in those situations, that's just kind of blows up the whole scenario and everyone starts from square one. But a family that was already headed in a good direction stays in a good direction.
But it was your guys' efforts that's helping the family continue in that path to where they don't end up on a porch and the child is safe. And it sounds like at least one adult is working hard and is trying to maintain a job. And it's really hard to maintain a job if you don't have a roof over your head and you're having to sleep on the porch all day while caring for a toddler. I mean, that's that whole situation is just, it's a bad situation. And I think it's great that we have a resource that was able to help that one family. That's a great success.
Yeah. Most people wouldn't understand like what it's like to not have transportation or a cell phone. Like her cell phone only works with Wi-Fi, so we can only communicate when she's on Wi-Fi. So most people wouldn't understand that trying to navigate the system without even the basic things is a very, very hard thing to do.
So what would have happened to that family if your positions weren't created?
There's a few pitfalls that could have happened. It could have easily become a DCS situation.
Yeah, for sure.
It could have easily been just the parent losing the job that she had, which is actually a really good job, which financially would have been disruptive, but that would have easily put them in the shelter system for at least a month or two until a new employment could be found. Or worse, you know, some of the sacrifices families make to stay housed, they're compromising. And so there are certain families that just, for lack of sleeping instead of sleeping on a porch on an empty vacant house, they'll go move in with someone that really they shouldn't be there and the child shouldn't be there. And so there are any number of dangerous situations. But yeah, we were thankful to be there, but we're thankful for the partners that are arrayed. Because everyone that we told the situation to, they responded like, we want to help. Just tell us how to help. And just connecting people to the people that will help is the primary focus of our work.
And I think like if we didn't have you guys, the number one priority for a police officer that makes scene to a call like that, knowing that this child slept on this porch all night and the temperatures are rising, they're outside, the number one priority is going to be, is this child safe? So the first thing they would do is they would get DCS involved. DCS would have to make a evaluation of the whole situation, and that can also turn into very quickly, hey, if you don't figure out housing, we're going to have to find placement for your child. And just imagine how much trauma that is for the child to be removed from the parent. And we avoided that, right? So we avoided that because the child was safe and you guys were able to step in and get safe place for the entire family. And I think that's great. That's a really good success story to keep them going the right path.
Yeah, I think, and it started with the officers knowing
Yep.
what to do. Because we could have just not been contacted and not dealt with it for a couple more days when we were reading through reports and seeing, oh, there's something that we could help with. So just those officers knowing that they had us as a resource and had Nora as a resource. She's also an advocate. Just knowing that, it just helped them tremendously.
Yeah, and it's also like coming from working as a police officer myself, not having those resources gets frustrating because who wants to tell this this child and the parent that, oh, sorry, you can't be on this property. You're going to have to go find somewhere else to go, right? That's a very hard thing to say, but when you don't have the resources, you kind of have to do what you have to do to solve the problem and do it correctly in the legal way. And having you guys, the officers, knew that, they picked up that phone instead of just kicking them off the property. They found a really good solution for them and a safe solution.
Especially when there's a parent that goes to work. There's
Yeah.
a parent that is advocating for their family. They're doing what it is we all would want them to do for their family. And all of that could have been lost in trying to put the pieces together, a DCS case and the housing and the transfer. That job could have just gone away. But instead, everything that was going right for the family was preserved so that it can continue to go right for them.
Yeah.
And we're still providing transportation. Like, right, we're taking
Yeah.
her back and forth to work. She doesn't have a car yet. That's a list on the goals, but that's not, housing is first, right? Because there's still the bus line.
Yeah.
But between us and the health department, we're making sure that she's transported back and forth.
So like this one case, just for our listeners here, how much time do you think will continue on just helping resources to make sure this family stays safe and continues in that path? It's not a one-day thing, right? I mean, it started with an officer, but this is continuing.
No, I know that we'll be in touch with them daily for at least another month. They're staying at the Safe Havens at Faith Ministries, and so they're serving the family for the next month. And I'm sure there's going to be other resources that will be needed to springboard them into their own unit. So this is easily another 6 weeks to 2 months of our time. But it's time well spent.
So as long as the family continues to in that right path, we continue to provide resources until they have a good placement where we can let them on their own. Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah. Let's elaborate a little bit about your relationship with the police officers. So because you are an official part of the Lafayette Police Department, you have access to the radio, to body cameras. Tell me more about that relationship.
Tell us about your radio traffic training.
So I guess I'm super loud on the radio from what I've heard. Sometimes dispatch thinks I'm being chased. I'm not loud on the radio. We haven't had a whole lot of radio training, but we are going to sit in dispatch for a little bit and learn. I do know what 10-8 means now, so I am trying to get my 10 code. So
is there radio etiquette, or are you just like screaming in it?
I just talk softly. I'm really not a loud person, so I have no idea why my radio is so loud. I've even been holding it like way far away from my mouth just because I'm, I guess, super loud. But Adam's really good on the radio.
But the things like radios, body cams, those are all adjustments for us because we come from a world where we're just helping and we don't have that safety equipment and that communication equipment. At first, I felt it was a bit of a hindrance because, I have to stop and remember, okay, someone has to know where I'm at. Even though I'm just talking to someone in a parking lot, I need to let dispatch know what's happening. And several times now in the last 2 months, we've gone to talk to someone we were normally going to talk to, but some emergency was happening at that same address. And so dispatch was trying to get a hold of us. Are you guys okay? Because, there's a 911 call at the location that you're at, which really illustrated to us why it is that we communicate. We also are concerned about people being willing to speak to us. And so when they see the equipment, the camera and the radio, we don't want them to feel put off by that, like somehow they're in legal trouble or that we're trying to get some information out of them that they don't want to share. And so we're trying to find, and we're getting good at this, to navigate that whole thing so that we are safe when we go out and we're able to talk to people naturally and to really be able to help. But the equipment is helpful, but it's taken some getting used to.
And our body cameras aren't used like the police officers use our body cameras, right? Our body cameras are so that Shawn can see where we're at.
Keep an eye on you.
Yeah. And talk to us through our body camera. But no, so that did happen once. So if we're in the woods, they can GPS us if we got into trouble. I mean, that's if we got into any kind of trouble. Yeah. We're both older, so we could fall in the woods and no one would know where we were at. So just you guys knowing where we are, we don't use the body cameras to do like interviews from people or anything like that. We use it for GPS location. So
and it actually allows us to go deeper into the woods than maybe we would feel comfortable to do. I've noticed that just as we do woods work, I'm more willing to go a little bit further if that GPS is on, just to see if there's another tent a little bit further back in, or to talk to someone that we haven't met before. It's like, well, I've got the dispatch knows where I'm at. They know what we're trying to accomplish. So you just feel more secure.
Let's talk about the woods real quick, because we haven't really discussed why you're going into the woods. In my mind, like if I didn't know what you were doing out in the woods, I'm like, what the heck is he talking about? So why do you guys go out in the woods?
Yeah, there's certain parts of our community where people feel safe enough to put up a tent and call that their camp. And some of it is on public property. And we have a no camping rule for really good reason. We consider an outdoor sleeper to actually be in great danger because it is not secure. It is not safe. And one of the ways you can illustrate that is it's not uncommon to come upon a campsite where they've been there for a bit and they'll have a knife. They'll have some form of protection because they don't feel safe out there, especially when we have so many resources. And if it's a veteran that's out there, there's 3 times as many resources. There's just no good reason to be a homeless veteran. So we take it as our mission to go out and just make sure everyone knows about what they qualify for. We're not trying to badger anyone, but we will tell them, we're kind of the team that goes out to interact with folks camping outside before an officer comes. And the officer's going to ask you to move along. We're kind of that group to make sure that you have what you need, but in the end, you're really not supposed to be here. And so we try to strategize what's the next step, what's the plan. And, typically when we meet someone out there, they're actually excited to talk to us, or they want to get the help, or whatever. Not everyone is excited about that. But
well, it's a big unknown. It's a big unknown, right? You never know who you're going to run into on a campsite in the woods, right? So that's where the radio comes in. That's where the body cam comes in, because you just don't know who you're going to run into. And a lot of people in the woods that have these tents set up that have been living out there, they deem that as, this is my home. And now you have Adam and Amanda showing up here telling them that, hey, this is not a good home. We need to find you better resources. And those people sometimes can get a little angry, and we don't know what their response will be. So yeah, it can be a little nerve-wracking. Yeah.
Yeah. And the city had done this work prior to us becoming a part of LPD. So we would go out and talk to people, usually with Valley Oaks Street Outreach, and kind of do it as a partners. And so, there's this, 80% of the camps that we hear about are usually abandoned, 5-6% or whatever's left of that. Most of them are willing to talk to you, but then there's that certain number that, they're out there for a reason. And you talk to them once and then you just don't ever see them again. They dart. And we're not really interested in chasing people down, but we also want to offer the help. If we're going to tell you can't be here, we want to at least offer the help that, well, let's get you to where you can be, right?
Yeah. So usually that process, the way that would work is, prior to having Adam and Amanda, instead of just walking in there as a uniformed officer and trespass warning them, and if they don't leave, they go straight to jail, right, for trespassing. But now, instead of doing that, we have that one step before that is, hey, you can't be here, but here's some resources that we have available for you. If you're willing to accept those resources, we don't have to go the route of getting arrested for trespassing, right? So now we have ran into some people that don't want the help, they don't want our assistance, and they end up having to deal with our patrol officers. But either way, our priority is to find a safe place, and sometimes that's jail, unfortunately.
Yeah, and we have enough people that want our help, so we're not gonna really force you. There are some people that we visit daily, and they know that we're gonna visit them daily, but us visiting them daily has got them connected to services. Whereas, you know, for the last, sometimes it's a person that hasn't been engaged in services in years or never has been engaged in services. I'm like, oh, I'll come back and meet with you tomorrow. And they're like, they kind of look at you like, okay. But then when you come back tomorrow, they're like, oh, she really did come back. And then you come back the next day and then the next day, and they're like, okay, I'll go into services. If you're going to be this persistent on I need help and you care, then I'm going to get into services.
Yeah, and every time they see Amanda's billing trust, and what they wouldn't do the first time you met them, they might be willing to do the fifth time you met them, because, well, Amanda does what Amanda says she's going to do. We're consistent, and that's how you build trust with people that are used to not trusting people. In addition to that, we have some funding through the state of Indiana that can provide housing for the chronically homeless. And so Amanda's frontline on this, but as a team, we try to manage that clientele as well. We have spots for up to 28 persons that can get an apartment in the community. It doesn't look like any type of housing. It looks like any type of housing. And we really appreciate our landlord partners that are willing to rent to the people that we are serving. And we have some really stalwart landlords that have been really good for the program. So we have resources. We have ways to help people in really dire situations. And we partner with LTHC and LUM, Valley Oaks, all sorts of partners to get people connected, not just into the housing, but also case management while they're there, because we want to get them housed in order to get them help. That's really where we're going.
Would you say, like, going back to like being persistent, like people don't trust you on the first time, we may not be able to solve that problem, that very first contact, but would you say that a lot of the individuals that you guys are running into and dealing with are suffering from some kind of mental health issues, or they just never really had anybody in their life that they truly ever trusted, and that's why you get a little bit of pushback on the first time? Because you would think someone that's out in 90-degree weather, that's sleeping outside, and someone comes up and provides all these resources, you would think they would just jump up and be like, yes, I need help. Why do we get that pushback?
I think a lot of it, especially if you have medical issues, a lot of people don't trust the medical system right now. I mean, they've been to the ER several times. They've been just what we call treated and streeted. So you're treated and then they're throwing you back out into homelessness. We don't ever want to see anybody leave the ER into homelessness. We're working on that. But I think a lot of times too, either they're suffering from substance use or they're suffering from a mental health condition. And sometimes that can just be anxiety. I mean, I have a client right now that is completely housed and okay. They suffer from anxiety so bad that they can't make their own appointments for the doctor because they have that much anxiety that they can't talk to other people. So you just build that trust with them, and then you're kind of their trust partner and getting them through the medical system. And so I think that's a lot of it. I think a lot of people have a lot of medical mistrust right now. I mean, that's where that stems from.
And some people, through their substance use or their mental health situation, or just how they've handled life up to the point that they meet you, there are burned bridges. And it's totally understandable. We have a really good system of care in our community. And so if someone's banned or someone is kind of used up all their tokens, if you will, with a certain provider, there's usually a really good reason for that. But then we can help them navigate an alternative way to handle their situation. And they might have just figured, well, no one wants to help, or everyone is saying no. And it's not that we have the resources in-house, but we do know of several different ways to get the same thing done. So yeah, the multiple contacts are our way of saying, we're not just offering help. We're going to be there. You can rely on us to do what it is we say we're going to do. That being said, we're not going to be able to just take care of everyone from cradle to grave. We're connectors, but we are going to connect them to every resource we can possibly come up with.
I would say that we're crisis case managers. We get them through the crisis and then pass them off to another case manager that can handle life with them. We can't stay with you for forever, but we are essentially case managers, especially with our community partners, that sometimes they're like, oh, that person's used services like 5 times and it hasn't ended well. Are you their case manager? Yep, I guess we are their case manager for the next 3 weeks until we can get them into case management.
Well, and some providers are really grounded to their building. Like they literally cannot send their people out for a number of reasons. They would prefer to, but they can't. And so we can sometimes be those fingers to kind of draw people in or attract them or work with them in the field till they're ready to walk through the door.
And another thing that we haven't mentioned yet is that we work with, Tippecanoe County is so lucky because each agency has their own social worker team or social worker. So we work with West Lafayette's social worker and Tippecanoe County social worker. So if somebody's going back and forth in between those entities, we're able to work as a team with them. So that has also helped us a lot.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome. I think this is a great program, and we're pretty excited to see how it grows and more success stories. And
you two are just perfect for this job. Like your calm attitudes, your passion shines through. Amanda, you get up at like 6 o'clock to drive your clients to work. You change like 5 times a day.
Sometimes 5 times a day. Luckily, we have a locker room, and so
keep our hiking boots in the car.
I have a lot of clothes at the PD that we can change into. If it's raining, I have rain jackets, and we just have a lot of stuff at the PD, and we have a shower if we need to shower. So whatever we have to go into, we're going to go into, and if we have to change clothes 5 times a day, that's what we're going to do. Sometimes we're meeting with, city council or a mayor or a community partner, and we have to be dressed up, and then we get a call and we have to get into the woods in a half an hour. So, and it's been raining and it's muddy and it's a mess, and so yes, sometimes you are changing 5 times a day.
But you got to be dedicated for this job. I mean, it can get pretty long days, right? So
sometimes,
but interesting days. We both enjoy the work, and so
no days the same. No. Never. And you could have a schedule. I'm very OCD schedule person, and so I have everything scheduled out, and then I'm like, oh yeah, so my day just completely changed, which is fine, right? But I've had to adjust to that and be fluid to adjusting my schedule. Because emergencies don't happen by appointment.
I think that's kind of what we always tell our officers too, right? It's not a clock in, clock out.
Nope.
You never go home on time. You just don't know what's going to come your way.
Yeah.
So, but that keeps the job interesting.
Oh, yeah.
So it's awesome.
All right, guys. Well, we really appreciate what you do. This was an incredible episode. I want to thank the Recovery Cafe for letting us film here. Maybe we'll come back and bring one of these guys in for another episode. That'd be fun.
Yeah.
Ring the gong again.
Oh, yeah. You want me to ring it right now?
Let's end the episode with that gong out.
That can be our sign off.
That can be your gong out.
Yeah. All right. Well, for all of our listeners, be sure to follow us on social media, on Facebook, Instagram, X, Nextdoor. We're on all of it. Be sure to tune in to our podcast, sign up for our email newsletters. I do want to give a shout out to our National Night Out event coming up. It's on July 23rd in front of Loeb Stadium. So what we'll do is we'll have a bunch of street games in front of Loeb starting from 3 ending at 6. Yeah, we'll have all of the local law enforcement agencies.
Going to have all kinds of stuff. SWAT truck, drones.
Yep. It'll be fun. Dunk tank.
It's going to be a fun time.
Can dunk some cops.
Yep.
Are you volunteering for that?
I might volunteer for it. I don't know.
That's what I just heard, that Sean's volunteering to get in the dunk tank.
So I'm getting volunteered.
Yes.
I'm voluntold.
Yeah,
and voluntold. We got this on camera.
All right. It sounds like my outreach team is going to want to dunk tank me. Great.
Yeah, so be sure to come to that. More information on social media. Sean, awesome. What did you think of our first episode?
First episode was great. Let's find another fun location. And again, thanks to Recovery Cafe for hosting us. And Amanda, gong us out. Nice. Lots softer this time.